vibration inspiring to us. And then he's a long-time friend of us. So he visited us so many times, which is so much inspiring. The Ramanaji, he is growing up in an ashram, right?
Yes.
His mother used to run this place back in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah.
He knows about Acharya very well.
Yeah.
Good to see you. How nice to see you. So glad you're here. Yeah.
So, let's talk. Today is about the Gayatri mantra.
Yeah. And I've been at we get called every year to the Sivananda Bahamas too. Good gig. And and we were at the yoga farm, at Yoga Ranch in New York last September doing a retreat. Good. So, by God's grace, let us start. Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptamina Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Om Bhavata Papranashanyai
Hi, baby. It's okay.
Anandamurtaye Jnana Bhakti Pradayanyai Matastubhyam Namo Namaha Shri Shri Anandamayi Mata Ki Jai Shri Shri Swami Sivananda-ji Ki Jai Shri Shri Swami Vishnu Devananda Ki Jai Apne Apne Satgurudev Bhagavan Ki Jai. So, welcome to everyone. We just got here ourselves. Usually when I come here I give different aspects of Bhakti Yoga and Mantra, which is my sadhana, so that's why I can teach what I know. But today we decided to talk about Gayatri Mantra specifically. Who here is in the least bit familiar with Gayatri Mantra? At least heard it. Good, okay. Who has never heard of Gayatri Mantra? Okay, good. We're all is welcome here. To start with, let's think about mantras in general. Because mantras are the working tool of the yogi, the working tool of the Sanatana Dharma. This yoga tradition comes from Sanatana Dharma. That means the eternal path. The misnomer Hinduism, mostly put out by the British, but Sanatana Dharma. And the mantra comes from the word mantra. Man is mind, tra is both to save or to take across. So it's the thought that takes the mind across. Across what? Across this misconception that we're separate from everything, from God, from each other, from the nature, to the real self. And the mantra, any mantra, is a revealed sound. It's a sound that is not, it doesn't come from human conception. No one made up a mantra. Mantras were heard by the great rishis of old. And they were heard as the sounds constantly reverberating within the universe and constantly reverberating within each of us, each person. Each individual person has mantras deep inside. So this is our working tool in this yogic path. There's many mantras for many different things. Most important mantra for all of us is our Ishta mantra, our personal mantra we have, which invokes divinity in the way that we feel most comfortable with or most inspired by. And that's important. But then there are what we call auxiliary mantras for many things. And Gayatri mantra can be considered an auxiliary mantra in that any mantra you use, you can use Gayatri mantra with it because it's only said at the most 3 times a day, morning, evening, and noonday, the cusps of the day. Usually just morning and evening. So we're going to talk about Gayatri. This is a really profound subject. So let's start by singing a kirtan to wake us up. I want to do a Devi kirtan and we'll invoke Saraswati and Gayatri. Saraswati is the great one divine mother in her form as inspiration, intelligence, mantra, sound, all of this. Everything to do with music and art and yoga. And mantra is from Saraswati, and they'll also say Gayatri. So we should say Jayama, Anandamayi, Jayama, and then we'll say Devi Saraswati, Goddess Saraswati. Let's try that. Devi Saraswati,
Devi
Saraswati.
Ma Gayatri,
Ma Gayatri,
Mother Gayatri. Okay, let's try that, and let's try to think of invoking the Divine Mother from within us to illumine our intellect to try to understand these deep subjects and to inspire me to try to say something intelligent about it. Jayama, 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 Jayama. Anandamayi Ma, Jaya Jai Ma. So I want to start with telling my credentials for why I can teach this class. Because I think it's important, because if you go to a doctor's office, you want to see the certificates on the wall that they've been to medical school, and if you want to go to a lawyer, you want to see if they've actually gone past the bar and been in court. So I didn't just watch a YouTube video. I was always drawn to Gayatri, and it's very connected. I'll talk later how it's connected with Anandamayi Ma. But I was sent back to India by Ma's main Swami in 2001 to help start a school in central India, in a very poor village. And I lived there for 12 years. And our main Swami, Swami Bhaskaranandaji, because Ma passed away in 1982. I was with her in the 70s. And so he would come often to visit us. And one time when he came, he said, "Be prepared. We want you. You'll be initiated in the Gayatri mantra." Because Ma, let's tell this now. The Gayatri mantra is given in what's called the Upanayanam ceremony, initiation. It's kind of a coming of age ritual it's supposed to be boys and girls, but for many years now it's just been boys. When they're about 12 years old, it's called the sacred thread ceremony. It's a very beautiful ceremony. You're given this thread which you wore like this, and it's a long fire ritual with the Brahmin priests and everything. And Anandamayi Ma had a profound influence on many things, and one of the main things was on women's role in spirituality in India, which in a very patriarchal society is very often suppressed or ignored. And one thing was, it came about just as a play. Someone brought her a long gold chain, and she said, "Oh, look, it's the length of a janayu." Janayu is a sacred thread, and she put it on like that. And then she had some Brahmins come in and just chant Gayatri mantra while she went into samadhi. And we all feel that she re-empowered Gayatri mantra for this age. It's interesting. And through a long play of events, she brought about the renewal of the custom of also initiating girls at that time, which obviously it was. It was because Gayatri mantra, we'll talk about it, it enlivens the intellect. So it's a wonderful thing to be given at 12 years old, and when you're in those teenage years to be saying this mantra, which awakens your mind, your intellect. So Ma, through a long series of events, eventually the Brahmin Pundits of Vanari said, if Ma said it, her words are Veda. And they researched and they said, yes, before the British and Islamic influence of their takeover, the Mughal emperors and the British, of course, girls were given in as well as boys. So in Ma's ashrams, girls are given in also. And throughout India, it's been helped some. And still it's mostly boys, I will have to admit. But at least now, some girls have it too. And then she also had some of her sadhus initiated into that she thought they could keep the disciplines, and if they would be aided by it, who weren't Brahmins, who hadn't received it earlier. So I was very surprised. As far as I know, I'm the only Westerner in our tradition that got it. So when Swamiji came, he had a Brahmin priest with him, and we went through the whole ritual. And it's a beautiful ritual, and he has a big fire ceremony, and he has 4 piles of rice in each corner, and he has all these little Shiva lingams, which he enlivens with the name of all the different heavenly deities that rule everything. At the end, after all the fire ritual, you stand up and he puts the sacred thread on it, and he starts saying the Gayatri mantra, and he walks you around and he shows you to all the different deities. He says, okay, now this is Dvija, twice born. So then you're allowed to say Gayatri mantra. And then I went into the temple, and both Swami Bhaskaranandaji and Swami Kedarnath, 2 very saintly, great yogis of Anandamayi Ma, had me kneel in front of Ma's photo, and he spoke it in my ear. So I had that. That was 2002 or 2003. And Swami Bhaskaranandaji first, I just did a little bit of Gayatri mantra with my Ishta mantra, and then he said, concentrate more on this. For you, this is what you need. So he had me do 10 malas a day, 7 in the morning, 3 in the evening. That's like 1,020. It took 2 hours. I did that for many years, and then when the ashram started sending me traveling, touring, I just cut back. Now I do 3 malas a day, and then some in the evening. It takes you about an hour and a half. I do that before I even start my Ishta mantra. So I've calculated, and I've said it well over 1 million times, probably 1.5 million times. So it's in the marrow of my bones. And one interesting story, In South Maharashtra, which is on the west coast of India, there's a town called Kolhapur, beautiful, very traditional Indian city. And we have a large gathering of Ma's devotees there, a beautiful sangha of people with my guru. And the ashrams frequently send me there, and we have satsang and things. And one time they took me to a saint. They said they have a great Mahalakshmi mandir there. It's a Shakti Peeth. And they said there's this wonderful, very simple saint who sits outside. We sit with him in satsang, and sometimes he'll look at a person and just tell them their past lives. So we went. Wasn't expecting anything, and he couldn't tell anything about me. He couldn't see that I was wearing a secretary. He couldn't tell anything except I was a Western sadhu. So he came and he had me sit next to him. So we were talking, and he had a wonderful presence, very peaceful, holy presence. And suddenly he turned to me and he said, I said, 2 lifetimes ago, not last lifetime, 2 lifetimes ago, you were in Varanasi and you were doing Gayatri Mantra sadhana. And some Westerners came along and you stopped there and went with them. So Ma's brought you back to finish your Gayatri Mantra. So don't ever stop your Gayatri Mantra. It gives me chills just now. I was thinking about it. So I thought, okay. So anyway, no one can know the depths of this subject, but at least I just want you to know that, have faith in my words. I speak from my own experience about Gayatri.
Deep experience.
Yeah. So let me first give you this. Can somebody pass these out?
What was the name of the sacred ceremony?
Upanayanam.
Upanayanam.
Upanayanam, yeah. I don't remember the name of that wonderful saint. He was just very simply wore white, and he just sat there at the ashram. So this is the Gayatri Mantra. So I want to really study this. It's a very deep subject. I want to talk about the history. We'll go over the pronunciation, which is very important, and then work with both chanting it and meditating on it. Now, the Gayatri, thank you. I'll take one too. Okay. So what is the Gayatri? In the Gita, Krishna says, when he talks about, I'm a manifestation of this and that, I don't recall chapter and verse, but he's saying, I am this and this and this. He says, among yajnas, that's sacrifices, like there's the fire ritual, the sacrifice, which is the foundation of Sanatana Dharma. He said, among yajnas, I am japa yajna, the offering of japa. That's a repetition of mantra. This is literally a manifestation of God, offering this chanting of a mantra to God. The most sacred thing you can do. And he says, among meters, I am Gayatri. Because Gayatri is the name of the meter. It means the flow of the rhythm of the chant. And so Gayatri is God himself, literally. You read interesting things about Gayatri. A lot of the scriptures are to encourage us to try to want to do the practice. And so they encourage to kind of hold the carrot there. And they'll say, Gayatri brings wealth and peace and prosperity, and you'll have a son and all this stuff. They promise all these things. That's why when you see a picture of Gayatri, I don't see her here. She'll have gold in one hand, this and that. But really the sadhus say, she enlightens the mind. She enlightens the intellect. Yes?
I'm sorry to ask this. It's a very stupid question.
No.
Can you explain what Gayatri is?
Okay. Well, see this meter? It's a 4-line prayer, a 4-line Sanskrit chant, which we're definitely going to go through, and I'll talk about the meaning and everything. But it's from the Rig Veda. It's the oldest of the Vedas. The Vedas are what's called Shruti. The Shruti is what is the name of the type of scripture. It means that which was heard. The Vedas weren't written. They were heard by the ancient rishis. They're like the vibrational sounds which support the universe. And they wrote them down, and we have the 4 Vedas. The Rig Veda is the oldest and has many different mantras and rituals. And the Gayatri is called Ved Mata. That means it's the mother of the Gayatri, of the Vedas. They said that from the vibration of Gayatri, all the Vedas came forth. Now, the person who recommended I get the Gayatri was Swami Bhaskaranandaji. And he was literally just Ma's own arms and legs and voice. He was the one who Ma Anandamayi empowered to give Diksha into our lineage after she left her body, and he was totally one with her. He was a perfect realized saint. And he had done a lot of Gayatri Upasana, a lot of Gayatri meditation from me for years. And so I once asked him, I said, Swamiji, what is the benefit of Gayatri? And he very straightforward, he just said, it gives you the power to realize the self. That's the main benefit. It empowers your soul to realize itself. Let me read a little bit what our Swami Sivananda said about Gayatri. This is Swami Sivananda. He says, it is the Gayatri mantra alone that can be commonly prescribed for all Sanatana Dharmis. That's those who follow this path of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana means eternal. Dharma, is the path of righteousness, the blueprint of the universe. The Lord commands in the Vedas, Samano mantra, let one mantra be common to all. Hence the Gayatri should be the one mantra for all the Sanatana Dharmis. The secret lore of the Upanishads is the essence of the four Vedas, while Gayatri, with the three Vahutis, that's the beginning words, is the essence of the Upanishads. The Upanishads, come at the end of Vedas. That's where Vedanta comes from, the most secret, deep teachings about the self. He says Gayatri is the fruit, is the essence of that. He is the real Brahman who knows and understands thus the Gayatri. Then he says, Gayatri is the mother of the Vedas and is the destroyer of sins. There is nothing more purifying on the earth as well as in heaven than the Gayatri. The japa of Gayatri brings the same fruit as the recitation of all the four Vedas together with the Angas. The Angas is the Tantras. This single mantra, repeated 3 times a day, brings great good, that's kalyana, or moksha, freedom. It is the supreme mantra of the Vedas. It destroys all sins and impurities. It bestows splendid health, beauty, strength, vigor. This is Swami Sivananda's poetic way. Strength, vigor, vitality, and magnetic aura in the face. I love the way he writes. Gayatri destroys the 3 kinds of tapa, or pain. Gayatri bestows on one the 4 kinds of purushartha, that is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. These are considered the 4 blessings of life. Dharma is the path of righteousness, artha is wealth, kama is fulfilling desires, moksha, liberation. They say Gayatri bestows all this. It destroys the 3 granthis, or knots of ignorance, avidya, kama, and karma. Avidya is ignorance, kama is desire out of control, karma is all our karma we have to reap. Gayatri purifies the mind. Gayatri bestows on the upasika ashta siddhis, that's the 8 powers. Gayatri makes a man powerful and highly intelligent. Gayatri eventually gives liberation or emancipation from the wheel of birth and death. The repetition or japa of Gayatri brings the darshan of Gayatri and finally leads to the realization of the Advaitic Brahman, or unity of consciousness. So Gayatri is patronized, you could say, by Gayatri Devi. In other words, this sound will produce the form of Gayatri Devi, and she is, her powers, the Divine Mother's powers specifically in that mantra come out through that. Let's see, where are we? The unity of consciousness, and the aspirant who asks for light from Gayatri in the beginning sings now in exuberant joy, I am that light of lights that gives light to the Buddhi. I love his style of writing. May Gayatri, the blessed mother of the Vedas, bestow on us right understanding, pure intellect, right conduct, and right thinking. May she guide us in all our actions. May she deliver us from the samsaric wheel of birth and death. Glory, glory unto Gayatri, the creatress, the genetrix of this universe. So, can't speak any more highly than that. So it's, I said the history of Gayatri is the Rishi is Rishi Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra means universal friend. And he lived thousands of years ago. He was a king, and he was the seer of this. Because every mantra has a particular rishi it's connected with. He was the one who, in deep samadhi, heard this mantra and wrote it down. So many yogis have since then seen Gayatri, but then he was the original one who brought this to earth, Vishwamitra. Now, Ma's connection with this is interesting. Like I say, she she re-empowered a lot of things, different things in the scriptures. Just by her visiting different holy places, she brought them back into play. And we, those of us in our lineage, feel that Ma also kind of empowered Gayatri, because she was always stressed people doing it. In that time when all the Brahmins came in and they chanted, and she went into samadhi, we feel that she kind of also re-empowered it then. So, and the way it's used is usually at sunrise and sunset. You face the east. There's a lot of things, when you're initiated into it, there's a lot of things that go with it, auxiliary things, chant from the Vedas and different mudras and things. But it's simple, just saying it is great. So we usually say it at sunrise and sunset, and it also, at that time, it brings in all the powers of that sacred time of the day, when the day meets the night. It's that balance of the gunas is there. And so we face the sun in the east in the morning, and usually in the west in the evening. And let's look at the meaning first. Then we'll talk about the meaning. I'll say it once. So just listen very closely. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om. And we'll work on it together, the pronunciation. But basically what it means, and each word has deep, deep meaning, which again we're going to work on dropping that into our consciousness. So of course it starts with Om, and then Bhur Bhuva Swaha. These are the three levels of creation. Bhura is the physical universe. Bhuva is what could be the more subtle kind of astral universe within this, and Swaha is the highest heaven, the highest, you could say, what's beyond astral, a causal level of creation. So it's saying, oh, you who are manifesting as all these levels of creation, Tat Savitura Varanyam. Tat is that. There's several verses in the Gita just giving the definition of what this Tat means. It means that with a capital T, that one being. Then Savitura is connected with the sun. This guy, it invokes the energy of the sun, but it's not really, they say, sometimes you'll see written, oh, it's a prayer to the sun. That's not true, because it says, Tat Savitura, that all radiant one. It means it's talking about Brahman, about the supreme consciousness itself. Savitura means the radiant one, the one shining. And then this beautiful word, Varanyam. This is where you get the devotional part. It means that which is most worthy to be loved and adored and worshipped, the most compatible with the human soul. And it's interesting, Ma gave a beautiful definition which I meditate on when I say it. She said these first few lines mean, O you Buddha Swa, O you who are manifesting as all of creation, from the most gross to the most subtle, Tat Savitura, that radiant one. And I think of that radiant one as the one who's filling, who gives us light. We can only see light because it says in the Upanishads, we see light because the self shines. So that one who's filling everything with light, Varanyam, is the most lovable because it's our own self. So I like to think of it as you who are manifesting of all this, who are illuminating all this, you're also illuminating, that same light is illuminating me as my own self. That same light which is enlightening the universe is shining in me as my own consciousness. So see, it's so beautiful. So you're saying, first your mind's going out to all of creation, but that radiant one is also shining within our own hearts. Makes it very, very personal. That's where the devotional part comes in. And then it says, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Bhargo is, again, radiance. Devasya means divine radiance. Divine radiance. Dhimahi. Dhi is the intellect. Dhimahi means I apply my intellect to this divine radiance. So in other words, you could say, a good English translation would be, we meditate on this divine radiance. And then the last lines of prayer, Diyo Yona. Again, we have Di as the intellect. Diyo Yona. Our intellects, and Na is plural. Naha. Our intellects, prachodayat. It's a word that's beyond definition. It's an extremely dynamic word. People say, oh, it inspires our intellects. That is so insipid. Prachodayat is a word that means to propel forward like a rocket blast. So it's saying, saying, "You who are manifesting as everything, including my own inner consciousness, we meditate on this divine radiance and take our intellects and just propel it into that light." It's a great prayer for light. Swami Bhaskaranaji, yes.
I think I maybe missed something there. So when you said Dimahi, that's applying the intellect or meditating.
Yeah,
on
Dhi
it.
is the intellect. He means we apply the intellect to it.
And then the Dyoyona is
Is this intellect, our intellect, not as plural, our intellect, please take our intellect and prachodayat. I guess that's a verb. You want to say, propel it into you.
okay.
And
Thank you.
Swami Bhaskaranaji, he was a great mystical yogi, even though he was a very simple, egoless soul. He was so beautiful to see. He once said, I was asking him more about Gayatri, and he said, the beginning of when creation is projected, we know that there's this Brahman, and then when creation is projected, it comes out of Brahman. And he said, what first happens is, as it says in the Shastras, there's like a rumbling within Brahman, and that's the pranava, that's the Om. And when the Om sounds, he says, then the Gayatri sounds from that, and all creation comes from that. That's how to find Gayatri. So we go back the same way, back to Gayatri, back into Om, back into the self, back into Brahman. And then it says, Naha, our intellect. And so I once asked our Swami Kedarnath, I said, when one person says Gayatri, does it affect everyone? And he got very animated. He says, one person saying Gayatri affects the entire human race. Because we are totally interconnected. There's no break between us. We are consciousness is undivided and undividable. So the same consciousness glows in each one of us as ourself. We only see separation because of our vision is wrong. We're trying to fix our vision through sadhana. So when we say Gayatri, we affect everything and everyone. It's really wonderful. And it's a wonderful prayer. So usage is, like I say, you can do it some in the morning, some in the evening. It's traditional to do a full mala 108, but that takes a while. Just doing it even like 3 times is wonderful, because it's absolutely perfect way to remember the divine. The whole problem, our general problem with being humans, is that we've forgotten God. That really is the root problem. We've forgotten God, and therefore we've just made this little false self that we think we're just the body and just the mind, and we're separate from everything and everyone. And so my Guru always said the remedy for everything is to remember God. And we're given beautiful ways to do it, and the mantra is the best way. Our personal mantra is throughout the day, if we can say it more and more and just remember the divine, we complete ourselves. We come out of this little small way of thinking about just, she said that, he said that, blah, 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 I got to do this, I got to pick up the kids. This small way of thinking throughout the day, it pulls us out of that and makes us feel that we're a part of everything. And we tune into our own soul through the mantra, the more we work with it. And this is a wonderful tool for these 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening. Just, when you can, just stop and just sit and just say it we'll work on getting the memory, getting the meaning into our minds. But just say it, just thinking of what it means. Oh, you who are manifesting as all this, that divine radiance we put our minds on, illumine our minds with that. Prachodayat, bring us into that light. And this, if you do any mantra enough, Swami Sivananda talked about it, you awaken the mantra chaitanya, that's the consciousness within the mantra. He compares it to having a bottle of perfume or something, there's a cork in it, and through sadhana you slowly pull the cork out, and then the aroma spreads. And you start to experience what's called the bhav of the mantra. The bhav is just the inner spiritual movement of it. And I can tell you from my experience, the bhav of Gayatri is, if I could do an image, it's like someone being underwater, holding their breath and looking up at the light coming through from the surface and knowing there's air up there and just starting to swim up towards that light, longing for that light. That's the bhav of Gayatri. It's the soul longing for light. And it's the soul being given light. And it's not some future thing. When you say prachodayat, it doesn't mean after I die and go to heaven, please do this for me. It's like when you say prachodayat, it happens, especially when you're doing it with conscious intent. When you say prachodayat, that light comes into you. So every time you say it, that light is going into you. So it's a light-producing mantra. Really wonderful mantra. So let's try to pronounce it now, because I am very firm in the fact that if you read these words in English and try to say it, you're going to say it wrong, and because there is no equivalent to the letters in Gayatri Mantra. So I'm going to have to teach you at least one line of Sanskrit. Okay? Anybody here read Devanagari in Sanskrit? No Sanskrit? Are you from India?
Yeah.
Do you know the Devanagari alphabet?
I know Hindi, not Sanskrit.
But it's the same alphabet as Hindi.
Okay.
You know, Akaka, Gadhan.
Oh.
So anyway, you'll be great. I got to teach you just one line of consonants to be able to say this right. This is the first time I've actually taught a public class in Gayatri. Before, I've only taught it to students who had already learned how to pronounce Sanskrit and been studying with me for a while. So this is the first. But you can't do it without this. So this is one line of consonants in the Sanskrit alphabet. Ta, da, 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 na. The reason I'm teaching it to you is in the alphabet, in the Devanagari alphabet, which is both Sanskrit, Hindi, and what are these? Marathi. Yeah, it's all in the same alphabet. There's letters which don't have an equivalent in the English language. This one line is very interesting. It's an equivalent of T and TH, ta, ta, da, and if I can D, DH, and N. But you're touching the back. These are very soft consonants. You're touching the back of the teeth with your tongue. So just feel that. Touch the back of the teeth, and then go da, da. See, it's not like tomato. It's like ta. It's da, da. And this is tat, shanti. It's not really shanti, shanti. See, it's da, da, da. Very soft. Ta. Now let's do this. And this is, I can aspirate it. Each consonant has an aspirated version also. Ka, ka. So this is ta, this is ta. You're still touching the back of your teeth, but you put a little air into it. Ta. Mm-hmm. And then this is da, and da. And then na. Okay, so do it after me. Ta, ta, da, da, na. So on all these letters, like when we say Devasya, Dhimahi, Dhiyo, and Na, Prachodayat, we're going to be very softly touching the back of the teeth with the tongue. Touching the back of the teeth with the tongue. And it's interesting also. Excuse me. I was in India a few years ago at a conference. And one of the people there was a lady who was a very good Sanskrit teacher. She was pointing out that languages like German and English, where all the consonants are hard, you miss a development of your mind and your chakras that you don't get when you have the soft consonants. He said, like soft consonants, I think Greek has soft consonants also. That when you're talking like that, da, 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 it actually activates parts of the brain that aren't activated otherwise, and it activates your chakras in certain ways. Isn't that interesting? So we're missing a lot by not doing this. So Vedic chanting, and basically when you speak Hindi, you're saying this, da, 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 da. You're speaking mostly with a few retroflex consonants, but mostly da, 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 na. So, okay, let's look at this now. So, again, we have ba and bha. See, we have aspirated. So we have om, I think you know. So we have bhur. Now, look at the pronunciation guide. See, people in English, you can't possibly pronounce it. But see, here in Sanskrit, you have a long u and a short u. So the long u is like oo, like school, and the short u is like like pull. So you start with om, and it's the long u. Bhur. Bhur. Try that. Bhur. So get the aspirated pa. Bhur. Om bhur. And then the short u, bhu. Bhuva. So listen to it for me. Om bhur bhuva. Good. And then swaha. Good. And see, it's just written swa, and these two little marks, what are they called? Visarga. Visarga. Mean that there's like an echo of the previous vowel with the ha in front of it. So we said swa, it becomes swaha. That's why we have the word namaha. It's written nama with two knots, namaha. So it's not like a long ha, it's like a ha, namaha. So swaha. So listen to it carefully. Om bhur bhuva swaha. Om bhur bhuva swaha. Good. And people mispronounce, sometimes say swaha. Now, if you want to, I think you should, if you have phones with you and you're interested in doing this, you should record me speaking at the end. But you can listen on YouTube. There's some good pronunciation. Don't ever listen to any Westerner doing this. Don't listen to Deva Pamal. I love Deva Pamal. He's a great singer, but she does this, slaughters the Gayatri mantra. So listen to, my favorite is, what's the beautiful lone singer? Subha Lakshmi has a nice one where she sings a perfect pronunciation. Okay, so let's keep going. Subha Lakshmi, yeah. So Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Now, we have this thing which people mispronounce as tat, sat, and tan. So tat. And remember, you're touching the top, tip of your tongue at the beginning end. Tat.
Tat.
Good. Tat. And then savitur. Again, tur. It's a short u. Savitur. Good. Now, to get it really fine, this what's written as a V is really va. It's when I was teaching English to the kids in India, I had the hardest time getting across that we had va and wa as two separate syllables because this consonant is right in between. It's a soft V or a hard W. It's va, va. You kind of vibrate your lips. Va, va. So va, and this is all va, re, nya. Good. And now this N is just so you can see it as a graphic. This N is thus. It's a very retroflex. Think of the word new, N-E-W. It's a very retroflex, na. So it's nyam, nyam. So va, re, nyam. Good. So let's try, listen to me first. Tat savitur varenyam. Good. I can feel the vibration from you guys. Really, it's good. And see, pronouncing mantras is so important because it's very much like before these digital radios. Remember the old days when we had a radio dial, and you would dial, you would get to the bandwidth, and it'd be all the static. Suddenly you get to the bandwidth, and it'd be all clear. Pronouncing mantras. Swami Sivananda said, it's impossible not to get benefit from a mantra. My guru said, it's impossible to pronounce the name of God and not get benefit. So you can say it any way you want, but it's really true from my own experience. When you get really the right pronunciation, it just tunes in the vibration and the connection so much more clearly. You really experience so much more. And over the years, I've worked with very fine, subtle adjustments in my pronunciation, and I'd be shocked how I just realized, this is a little bit off, and I would really change it, and the difference would be profound in the experience of the mantra. So it's important to pronounce it as clearly as possible and correctly as possible. Okay, so let's see. So now we have this bargo. And again, so you look at it in English, you say bargo, but it's bargo. Bargo. Good. And yeah, here, touching the back of the teeth, devasya. Dhimahi. And see the long line over that means it's a long E. It gets both a full sound and also a longer duration. Dhimahi. Sean, did you want? No? Thank you. So, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Very good. Now, again, we go back to this D of the intellect. Dhiyo Yo Naha. And so you have Naha. Prachodayat. Good. We don't have Ra. We have Ra. So Pra. Prachoda. With the make sure it's a sound and with this touching the back of the teeth. Prachodaya. And the only long ah is this last syllable. Prachodayat. guys are picking it really well. This is good. So let's see. Let me try saying a full line and then say it after me, okay? Listen real carefully. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Tat Savitur Varenyam. Tat Savitur Varenyam. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Let's try that line again. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Make sure it's not pracho, pra. It's all prachodaya, prachodaya. Good. And when I teach people Sanskrit or Hindi, I always say the first two vowels in the Devanagari alphabet are Those are the two most mispronounced words by Westerners, because when you see it written in this gibberish transliteration, you can't really tell what the heck it's supposed to say. And we have all these different ways of pronouncing A. So people say bhakti and it's supposed to be bhakti. They say Hanuman, it's supposed to be Hanuman. So it's written very clearly in Devanagari, which is which is ah. So this prachodaya, so prachodaya. Good. Let's just try first, like we do with Kirtan. We work with mantras kind of from the outside in. Kirtan is using the mantras, singing like we'll do tonight. We'll sing Kirtan together. My whole band's coming. My violinists and guitarists are coming also. And we'll sing the mantras, which also brings it to life in this very joyful and dynamic way. And then we take the mantras inward in meditation. But I'll tell you, I'll sing it in this melody that Subha Lakshmi, that's her name? Shubha Lakshmi sings. I recommend that on YouTube, Shubha Lakshmi. So you see that very famous singer. So she goes, let's sing it after me. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Wait, so I lost the key, just a second. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. I can't get the melody now. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Tatsavitur Varenyam. Tatsavitur Varenyam. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Tat Savitur Varenyam. Tat Savitur Varenyam. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Let's do it one more time. Remember, it's Naha. Okay, one more time. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Tat Savitur Varenyam. Tat Savitur Varenyam. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. That's really good. Very good. You're doing very well. So, like I say, this is such a wonderful way to just stop at these appointed times, morning, especially sunrise and sunset, or just morning and evening, and just let the mind be still and just drop this. Use it as your spirit, just remembering God and remembering the fullness of God and how we're one with Him, and how this light, which is everywhere, is the very light of our own consciousness, and how we're praying, fill us, suffuse us with that wonderful light. It's just such a perfect prayer, such a perfect remembrance. So now let's working in meditation, but let's get each syllable with the meaning. Let's kind of let it sink into our consciousness. So, okay, Om, we know it's the supreme word of vibration of divinity. So let's think of this. Bhur. Now see, this is how we bring bhav to a mantra, to mantra repetition. I always tell people, in meditation, if you have 4 things in place, you're going to have perfect concentration. And if the concentration isn't right, just see which of these 4 is out of place. The first is you're very relaxed, you're sitting straight, but you're physically and mentally relaxed. Second is you use the breath as a tool, so you're aware of the movement of the breath. We'll work with this too. And the third is you're meditating on the mantra, you're keeping the sound of the mantra within you. And the fourth is you're saying it with bhav. You're saying it with, it's not just, you're not just going Om, 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 Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. You know, you're saying it with some kind of movement of the soul. And bhav is an interesting thing to work with because it's not intellectual. In meditation, we don't want to go into these higher, lighter alpha waves of thinking like blah, 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 blah. We want to calm the mind into deeper and deeper, slower and slower movements of rhythm of the mind. So we don't want to go off into discursive thought, but we get bhav by just knowing the real meaning of each syllable and then just dropping the syllable into our consciousness, and the meaning will be there. If we really have thought about it, the meaning will just come out without having to intellectualize about it. You follow? So it's like an intuitional understanding of the meaning rather than a visual thinking, oh, this means so-and-so, because that leads to, and that means so-and-so, that means so-and-so, and the mind goes off, you know? So we want to just have this almost wordless, intuitive understanding of the meaning. So let's think of bhur. Bhur. Think within that sound, bhur, is the whole earthly material existence. I mean, the ground we're sitting on, the universe, this world, bhur, everything, the earth element, the material universe, bhur, bhur. Let that concept of the physical manifestation, bhur. And important thing, God manifesting as the physical manifestation. Divinity manifesting as materiality. Bhur. And then bhuva, think it's more subtle. It's the astral, it's the inner, it's the light inside, the more subtle manifestation of creation. The place where the soul goes after the physical body leaves. Just the more subtle, vibratory effect of manifestation. Bhuva, astral. And then swaha. So let the mind associate that with swaha, the highest heaven, the highest, most subtle, most divine realm of light and peace and bliss, next to it, full with divinity, swaha. So bhur, earth, material, bhuva, astral, more subtle, swaha, the highest, most subtle heaven. And we're thinking of divinity manifesting as these 3 levels of creation. God as bhur, bhuva, swaha. And then tat, that undefinable principle of divinity, tat. Now, savitur. So when I say it, the very word vibrates with light. It's just radiance. Savitur, tat savitur. It's the light that's enlightening the entire universe. The light in which we see light. There would be nothing but darkness if there weren't that divine light. Savitur. Just permeated with light. Savitur. And now, beautiful. Varenyam. When we say that, Varenyam, that's that same light shining within us as our very self. Varenyam, our divine nature, immortal, full of light, full of peace and bliss. Varenyam. So we're invoking God as Bhur, heavy earth material, Bhuva, lighter and more subtle, Swaha, ever-free light, Tat, that, Savitur, perfect radiance which is manifesting as everything, Varenyam, including within me is my own consciousness. Bhargo, radiance, blooming, blossoming radiance. Bhargo, devasya, divine. So divine radiance. Bhargo, devasya, divine radiance. And then think of the, that's our intellect. Dhimahi, applying our intellect to that. Dhimahi. And now the last line we think of as a petition, as a prayer. Dhiyo yo naha, our intellect. Prachodayat. Just think of that as like, as you say that, it's both a prayer and an answer to a prayer. Prachodayat. It's filled us with this radiance. This radiance which fills everything. Permeate me. It's, I honestly can't tell you what prachodayat means etymologically, but I know by experience, when you say that, you're filled with light. Prachodayat. Perfect prayer. Take me, radiate me within me. So again, we drop in. So let's try this. I won't say the meaning now. When I say the word, let it just drop into your consciousness and feel the meaning too. Om. Bhur. Bhuva. Swaha. Tat. Savitur. Varenyam. Bhargo devasya. Dhimahi. Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. Om. See? So then let's try it now, meditation. Let's close our eyes and tell you what, let's say it together. When you do it mentally, you do it kind of just on a monotone with a little bit of lilt. We'll say it together 3 times and then, okay, first step, let's do it together 3 times very quietly. Om Bhur Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo yo naha prachodayat. Om Bhur Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo yo naha prachodayat. One more time. Om Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo yo naha prachodayat. Now just keep saying it mentally. So you say it mentally and I'll say it out loud for a little bit so you can let it just drop into your consciousness. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo yo naha prachodayat. Just keep saying it mentally at your own pace, and you'll find that you can even do it with the breath. try linking with the breath as you breathe in Om Bhuva Bhuva Swaha. As you breathe out Tat Savihura Varunam. Breathing in Bhargo Deva Siddhi. Breathing out Dhiyo Anaha Prachodaya. Let it vibrate in the breath and breathe in and out. This is very powerful. As you drop each syllable back into your consciousness, let its meaning just sound out without intellectualizing. Just feel each meaning. And let the heart open up and say it from the heart. You're invoking the divinity outside of you, divinity inside of you, flooding yourself with light. Now just think of the meaning when I say it, as I say it, as your own prayer. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. You who are manifesting as the three levels of creation. Tat Savidur, that radiant one. Varanyam, who is shining in my own being as my own awareness. Bhargo Devasya, on that divine radiance. Dhimahi, we meditate. Dhiyoyo Naha, take our intellect, prachodayat, and fill it with this light. Propel us into your being. Om. So, good stuff, huh? Very, very powerful and illuminating mantra. There's so many blessings to it. I can't tell you what it does to your mind. I've done there's what's called Gayatri Purishcharnam, which you say 1 lakh of mantra for each matra in the mantra. So there's 24 matras in Gayatri. So it's I don't know how many tens of thousands of times. Usually takes 3 years to do. And Swami Bhaskaranaji wanted me to do that, and he said, I'm coming back in January, be ready for that. So I got real sick beforehand, so when he came, he said, your health isn't good enough to do this right now, but just do a lot of Gayatri. But I've done, times where I've done literally 5, 6, 7 hours a day of this, and it's unbelievable what it does for you. It's like Swami Sivananda was saying, it's so purifying, it's so enlivening, and it really refines the intellect, and really just opens up the mind. It just does amazing things. How blessed we would have all been if we'd been saying this since we were 12 years old. All those teenage years, instead of thinking of listening to the Rolling Stones, we were saying Gayatri. So anyway, any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, Lisa.
So this is a prayer, and I know that book that you were mentioning earlier with all the old scriptures.
Vedas,
There's a lot of prayers.
Yeah.
So is this one of the main ones?
This is the main one. This, like I say, is called Ved Mata. What is that blue field there? Oh, can you push accept or whatever? this is called Ved Mata Gayatri. It means the mother of the Vedas. So in other words, it said, I think I mentioned earlier, it said that within the vibration of this mantra, all the Vedas are contained, and they come out slowly from the basic vibration of this one mantra. So this is like the prayer of prayers. It's like the
prayer.
Yeah, the prayer from which everything else comes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That just I can't even describe it. The vibration of this mantra is so complete and so healing and so powerful. Everything is within it. Yeah.
So, as I'm practicing and trying to get the pronunciation right, will the intent of trying to do so still be considered a real prayer?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
But try to get it right too. Do you have your phones? Would you like me to say it while you record it? That would help. But also, I suggest YouTube an Indian saying it, not any Westerner. I don't know any Westerner I can recommend except Ramana, who's a Sanskrit scholar.
So, is it any different if we sing it like we did, or just say the mantra?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, it's basically the same. You can do it at different times. Like I frequently sing it when I'm driving.
Mm-hmm.
I have a long way to drive. I just go Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur
I've
Varenyam.
just said it.
Yeah, I find in meditation it's better to have it just a monotone because the mind kind of goes into it better. It drops more deeply, and you're kind of dropping it back into your intellect. Someone gave the illustration of dropping pearls into oil. Just Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Yeah.
It's almost hard when I was saying it mentally than I was hearing the tune because
Yeah, that's okay too. You can sometimes do that too. Just see how it naturally comes out. Yeah, yeah.
You've said it's really beneficial to do it at those junctures in the day,
Yeah.
morning and evening, but you can do it.
You can do it
at night
anytime.
as well.
Like Swami Sivananda said, there's no restrictions to this mantra. You can do it anytime. It's always. He even said, in his practical way, you can even do this in the latrine, but do it mentally there. Swami Sivananda is so practical, you can't help but love the guy.
I have another question.
Yeah.
How far is this one traced back? Because I just read the book on the Rig Veda.
Rig Veda?
Yeah, and sorry, I'm from Denmark, so I get the words a little mixed up. But they say 1,800 years, but then there's conflict 5,000 to 6,000.
Yeah, I mean Krishna was 5,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, and he was long, at least 10,000 years. Again, it's beyond time. Like I say, it's Shruti, it's what was heard. It's always vibrating in the universe, and these great rishis heard it those thousands of years ago. But, you can hear it now just the same as they heard it then. You have to just tune our consciousness. So it's beyond time, but it's been on the earth. It's the oldest of oldest. It's the oldest scripture of the Vedas. So at least 10,000 years, I would think. Yeah. I wasn't there, so I can't tell you for sure. Might have been. So let's record it. I'll say it 3 times so you can kind of just hear it. Okay. Everybody ready? If you like, yeah. Okay, ready? Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Good. Well, this is a really nice tool to have. We're given so many useful and powerful tools in Sanatana Dharma. It's just a wonderful thing. So many people say, you're supposed to be good. You're supposed to think the right thoughts. You're supposed to remember God. How? Who can think of God? God is beyond the intellect. We don't know God. But we have these wonderful manifestations of God, which are the mantras. Someone was asked Anandamayi Ma. He said, Ma, you've just told us, quoting the scriptures, that God is beyond the intellect, the mind cannot think of God, cannot comprehend God, but then in the next breath you're telling us to think of God. What is this? And how do we do that? And she smiled and she said, that's a very good question. And she said, God has given us two things, avatar and nam. And those are the manifestations of God in the world to which we grab Him by. Avatar is the descent of God into the world as a being. So we think of Rama as Krishna, as Jesus if in the West. These different manifestations of God appearing, the fullness of God, really in a form that moves. We can think of Sri Ramakrishna, we think of Anandamayi Ma as an avatar. And then Nam is the divine name. And every tradition, Christian, Sufi, Sikh, of course Hindu, all have this tradition of the divine names. That the divine name, the name of God is God. You say Ram, even if you're hammering and you hit your finger with a nail with the hammer and you go, ow, Ram, Ram, Ram. You get a blessing. That's God Himself. So these wonderful mantras, or the way we can grasp God. Ma said many times, she said, God is beyond comprehension, but if we just can get a little part and hold on to it, it's inseparable from the rest. So if we just hold on to Ram or Om Namah Shivaya or Om or whatever mantra we use, we just hold on to that with all our might. It will open up wider and wider and wider. We'll see, oh, there's so much more, there's so much more. And within the mantra itself is devotion, is knowledge, is wisdom, is all yogas are within the mantra. I one time taught a class on Bhakti Yoga, and a lady, she was an Indian lady too, so she had a background. She said, you know, I'm a terrible student, I don't understand any of this stuff, I don't feel any devotion, I don't know, I'm just worthless. And I said, no, you start right from where you are. There's no bad starting place. Right from where you are, and you go from there. And we don't create anything new. We're not trying to generate devotion or generate anything. It's all inside of us already. That's the genius of this yogic path, that we don't have to die and go to heaven. We don't have to, become good. We are good inside. My wife's guru, Eknatheshwaran, always said, I don't believe in original sin. I believe in original goodness. So every one of us has this divine core inside of us. And the whole yogic process is just uncovering that. And the more we practice these mantras, even if we feel our heart is dry, we feel, I don't know who God is, I can't do this. We think all these negative things that the mind and the ego comes up with. If we just keep practicing with what we have, that mantra will uncover that. And we find it within our hearts, within every heart. There's a wealth of devotion. Because we're part of us. We say, Varinyam, that same light is shining within us. It's there, divine. And so the whole yogic process is just slowly uncovering this and discovering that it's there. And if we just work with it, we will discover it. We will experience it slowly. At times in flashes like lightning. Ma said many times, she said, the lightning flashes and illumines everything, then it goes away and it's dark again. But the sunrise rises slowly and that light stays. So real spiritual life, sometimes you'll get flashes, but it's just slowly, you don't even notice a change. And after a while you realize, things are a little different. Mm-hmm. And that light shines more and more. But it only comes to practice. It's a cumulative practice. I always use the term dedicated perseverance, I think you could translate it as. So just by just continually with enthusiasm, most we can, practicing, these experiences will come. And the ultimate experience will eventually come. We just have to keep working for it. By the grace of God. And that's an important thing too. The grace of God is all important. Every one of us here have the grace of God. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. We'd just be at the beach. The fact that we've come to this ashram to have some kind of spiritual teaching and experiencing in community only happens because you're in touch with the grace of God. We can't even understand what spiritual life is until we get that touch of grace. And then we take that, and then yoga is the response to this grace. Because it's an interesting thing, we receive grace, the fact that we can do sadhana is grace, the fact that anything that happens is grace, and everyone says, there's no way to get into that final way except by the grace of God. When I lived in India for 12 years, and I've been going since the 70s, but I always tried to seek out the saints. I'd find the Mahatmas. I'd say, where are your local saints? And I'd go visit them. And I met this wonderful saint living outside of Pune in Maharashtra one time. And he'd been living there since he was a boy with his guru. And he was old, and his guru's samadhi, his grave was there, and he was old, a long white janta, very refined face. And he was simple like a boy. He was just so, I believed every word he said, because he was just so simple. And I asked him, I said, Swamiji, what's your sadhana? And he smiled and he said, I no longer have any sadhana, I just live in the being of God. So wonderful. But my point was, he said, any self-effort you make will take you to a certain point. And he said, while he was speaking, I guess his face was radiant. He was looking into the truth as he said it. He said, and from there you'll see an infinite sea of light and consciousness. And he said, and it's by invitation only. But he said, if you stand at the door, he will invite you in. So everything is grace, but at the same time, someone once asked my own guru, asked Ma, what is the relationship to grace and self-effort? You say we have to have some kind of effort, at the same time you say it's all grace. And she was somebody giving her a flower, so she was holding a flower. So she didn't answer, she just handed the flower to this man. He said, oh, thank you, buddy. He took it. He said, there's your answer. She said, this is grace. I handed you grace, but if you'd gone like that, you wouldn't have had it. But you went like this, and you took it. And now you've got it. So he said, grace is there, but we have to learn. Sadhana is learning how to reach out and take it. And develop our capacity to receive it. Because grace is powerful. People used to ask Paramahansa Yogananda, he was a great master, and he said, they would say, you can give us samadhi by a touch. Why don't you do that? And he would laugh and he would say, if I did, you would blow up like a light bulb with 15,000 volts going through it. He said, slowly develop yourself through your practice, through your bhakti, through your devotion, and then you develop the capacity to hold that grace. So that's what we're doing in sadhana. We're responding to the grace of God. Because grace, Sri Ramakrishna said, grace is always flowing like a wind, but you have to put your sail out to catch it. And Ma said beautiful, she said, grace is always falling like a waterfall, but if you keep your vessel upside down, it'll always be dry. So sadhana is learning to turn our vessel up so we can catch the grace. So that's what we're all doing. We're trying to respond to the grace we've received and learn how to hold it and hold more and more of it and uncover what's inside of us. Good. Any other questions? Nice. Well, now you've got a new tool to work with. And use it, you use it as you feel it works in your own sadhana. But it's a very wonderful prayer to have, very wonderful to just lift up the heart and soul to God. And every time we do that, we have this word samskara, means an impression on the mind. The slightest thing, like this. I just created some scar in my mind. And more samskaras create a path by which we go. And if they're bad samskaras, like smoking a cigarette, every time you pick it up, make it deeper samskara to that habit, that addiction. But every time we say the slightest prayer, every time we just say Om, and then when we, especially at these special times of the sandhya, the sunrise and sunset, when we say that simple prayer, even if it's just once, we create a samskara of opening to God. And that's how we open the path before us. We do more of these actions, we create these good samskaras. So we just start to go down that path. We pave the road in front of us by our practice, by our devotion, our prayers. And every little thing matters. Everything God counts the slightest movement of the heart towards Him. They say you walk one step towards God, He walks 10 steps towards you. So everything is noted. Everything is. Ma said, God bless this totally disproportionately. You just turn towards Him with a little prayer, and He blesses you 1,000 times over. So this is a good little prayer to have. Good big prayer to have. Okay. Thank you all, and come tonight and we'll sing God's names together in beautiful music with a great Tupperware.
Yeah.
Jai Ma.
Thank you. I found this on, I don't know if you want to
Oh yeah.
It's actually, let's see,
I was going to ask you what you found.
It says 6 million views.
Who is this again?
This is Lata Mangeshkar's.
The whole connection.
Yeah.
Can I take a picture of that screen?
Huh? Sure. In the bottom. Slightly different.
Perfect. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So especially with today's tech opportunities, we can always find something good like this. Like I say, don't listen to Westerners saying they always slaughter.
Sure.
I like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. I think that's Shubha Lakshmi's.
Yeah, that's Shubha Lakshmi.
Yeah, I couldn't find it right.
Shubha.
Shubha.
Shubha means auspiciousness. Shubha Lakshmi, auspicious Lakshmi.
Yeah.
We used to chant and Rupa and Shasta just do Gayatri mantra once a week, and that was the tune we used.
Yeah,
but
it's
I never
nice.
had a recording of it, so I should look it
Yeah,
up.
it's on YouTube. That's
Yeah.
a nice melody.
So Acharya, the only time when I read the book Anandamayi the goddess, that one.
Oh, I wrote that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I read the part when you said that she gave you your special mantra. My first thought was, I want a mantra from Acharya. And I've been trying to see you for a long time. I've been trying to, and you came and just gave us the mantra. So
Yeah, there you go.
it's beautiful.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What was that recording he just played?
Auxiliary mantra. So you basically have your Ishta mantra will be different. It'll be shorter and it'll be something that goes on all the time. This is we use it at particular times to get the blessings of that moment. Yeah.
I think someone online just said something.
I wondered what that recording was the young man just played. If he couldn't find Shubha Lakshmi, who was that?
Oh, it was Lata Mangeshkar.
Lata Mangeshkar.
Yeah,
Lata
she's also
Mangeshkar.
famous.
Geshwar.
Here, let me see. Lata
Uh-huh.
Mangeshkar.
HKAR. Oh, thank you very much.
Sure.
So it doesn't affect the potency of the mantra when you change the intonation or melody? As
No,
long
not
as
the
you're
melody.
keeping the same
Yeah,
meter.
you keep the meter, you keep the pronunciation. Yeah, it's true. That's fine. Yeah. In fact, some like I found in Kirtan, we do this Mahamantra, either Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, and we have a lot of different melodies, and the vibration of the mantra is always the same, but a melody will open up. Different melodies open up different bhavs. Like we have some that are very meditative, some that are very joyful. So the melody can affect kind of the mood, but the vibration, yeah, is unaffected. Yeah. Good.
If that is still recording of you adding melody to this like you did earlier.
The Shubha Lakshmi. Okay, let's try it. You want to do it?
Are you going to sing?
Okay. I like this melody too. This is my favorite. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. They do it higher too. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Back to the original. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat.
Beautiful, thank you.
Hope Shubha Lakshmi to bless me
I
for
think
that.
you can find it. I don't know.
Yeah,
it
just
wasn't coming
Shubha-
right up, but
Shubha Lakshmi. Yes.
dig for it, you'll find it.
Good. Okay. If no other questions.
I don't have a question, but if you have time, can you give some examples of your experiences with Anandamayi? I know it's
Read my book.
I know there was a
Oh, I wrote a book called A Goddess Among Us. It's on Amazon. It's a short book. It's meant to be, I was asked to write it by the head of our ashram. It's meant to be just an introduction. And then I wrote it, and so I showed it to Swami Bhaskaraji, and he had me do some corrections. And then Swami Kedarnath said, put some of your own memories in. So I thought, okay, what memories can I have? So I thought, okay. So I went back to my room, and I started my computer, and I started just thinking and writing, and suddenly I realized, oh my God, I didn't dream it. I was there. And I started just weeping, and I wrote and cried all morning because it was just so supernatural to be with her. I can't even describe it. It was do you know who we're talking about? Anandamayi. Yogananda met her back in the 30s. Autobiography of Yogi. He wrote a whole chapter on her. But to be in her presence was always supernatural. Really, I when she walked into the room, I tried to keep my eyes on her every moment, and I found when my eyes rested on her, I woke up. My own mind woke up in a way. My consciousness was expanded. I would think, "Wow, this isn't normal for me." Just literally, just her sight brought an awakening of consciousness. And she traveled, for 50 years, from 1932 to 1982. She traveled incessantly, just at the longing of the devotees. She just showed up. So it was hard staying with her. But wherever we were, every night we'd just sit with her. And a lot of times we'd sing kirtan, and she had no program. She didn't have, she didn't give speeches. She just sat. And if you pulled her out, you could ask her questions. She would start speaking, maybe sing, but she was just always staying in herself. And to see her, to see someone who had no ego, was literally just a blank screen. I mean, it can't even be described. She was just like, you see her, there was just infinity there. There was no, we're used to people having a charismatic presence, like a great, someone has a great presence, they walk in, it's a big ego, like this. She was just like, she was emptiness, but at the same time, this unquestionable, regal glow. She was the queen of the universe without doing anything. It was a strange paradox to see. And also, we'd always feel just this uncanny familiarity. Like it was just, she would evoke these soul feelings. It's just we'd look at her, and I realized I've always known her. There was just this familiarity, like the soul recognized its own mother. And she would have many different bhavs. She could sometimes be very animated, like when a festival was going on. She'd be everywhere at once, and she'd be, directing people what to cook and bring people there. Like, come on, you sit here. She'd be doing everything. Other times she'd be extremely distant. She would just be in herself, and you realize she was in a place that we can't imagine. But it was interesting when she was in these kind of endrawn moods. It would inspire us with a feeling to want to do our sadhana more, so we could really be with her. I realized I'm sitting in front of Ma, and she's kind of just abstracted. She's in a state I can't possibly comprehend. But it didn't make me feel like, oh, come back, Ma. It was like, I want to really be there with her. So it inspired us to do even more sadhana, because we could be with her physically, but still she was in a place that was just, transcendental.
I've read that she would drop into states of ecstasy. Is this maybe what you're speaking
Yeah. She would say herself, she would say, you see, she really used the pronoun I. She would usually say, this body, Yeshurya, she would say, this body says, because she could speak to anybody, so she would just say, this body. She'd say, for this body, there's only one state of consciousness. I never experienced anything but this one state, but because if you want to see it, different states are manifested within it. So she would have different kind of bhavs at different times. I never saw this because it happened in her younger days, but in the early days, when kirtan was going on, she would manifest what's called Mahabhav. Bengalis do this great kirtan where they call it Nam Yoga, where they put an altar in the middle of the room, and they carry the instruments. They strap on this, and they have the Badanga coal, and they walk around and around singing kirtan. And this would be going on, and Ma would be off to the side, and suddenly she would just be, sorry, I got a cramp in my leg. She would literally be drawn up onto her big toes like this. So she was standing on the tips of her big toes. Some people said she wasn't touching the floor. And the power within the mantra alone would be moving her. She would very often illustrate truths she spoke by things within her own life. So she would always say, this power within the divine name, this mantra has power. And people who saw it, witnessed it, said that they saw that it was literally the power of the names moving her body. There was no self-motivation. So she would literally float across the floor on her big toes, like being swayed like this by the rhythm of the drums. Then she would fall on the floor and roll like lightning, and then be drawn up again like this. And so the kirtan would literally just live through her like this. And then at the end, she would kind of collapse in samadhi, and these mantras like the Vedas would just come out of her mouth, quick succession. And people would just be like this. I mean, divine things like that. It was really amazing. Same time, she could be very, very personal, very approachable. Like I found whenever I wanted to have, we call it a private. We'd ask her to, we wanted to check our practice or talk to her and say, can we have a private? She would always say yes. Sometimes there'd be a few days away, but she'd come at this time, and you could just sit and talk to her. Now I speak Hindi. At the time I didn't speak Hindi or Bengali, so I'd have to have a translator. So just one person I'd ask and like this, But and there were times when I would have questions, and I would sit in front of Ma and look up at her, and she'd be looking down at me with such compassion and love and mercy. I would just thought, and I realized I got no questions. Everything's great. I'd leave. I think, darn, I wanted to ask this. So I finally learned to write them down, so I remember to ask her the questions. But it was just really, it was remarkable to be with her. There's so many instances of just things she did. She was never like showy, miraculous. But what was interesting, it was the line between normal and supernormal just was very blurred. Like she could, if she started flying across the room, we wouldn't be surprised, because it was supernatural to be with her. Just her consciousness was so spreading. Like I say, at night, wherever we were, we'd sit and we'd just sing kirtan and just look at her and be with her. And it was, you couldn't believe you were in this world still. The vibration was so high and so rarefied just to sit with her. Especially we were singing kirtan and she would just sit in samadhi. And sometimes, and there were certain singers who would get her who would coax her to sing. Like they would stop, they'd be singing kirtan and they'd get real soft and they'd look at Ma. And then sometimes she would suddenly start singing, first softly, then louder. Then she would leave the kirtan, and then go like this, and everybody would get more and more excited. And go, ha, ha. Yeah. I was at a 24-hour kirtan once, Mahamantra kirtan, and I think we were in Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh. And there was a big tent, and like I said, there was an altar in the middle. And we were walking around, and Ma was just sitting on a little charpai like that on the side. And then occasionally she'd come in with us, and she would walk, and then we'd stop and we'd dance around her, and then she would go like this, and the kirtan would get wilder and wilder, But she would not put up with any showiness from a person if it was false. I'll tell you a funny story. And there was a young sadhu who came, because so many sadhus came, so many interesting people came to Ma. We were there someplace, and there was a young sadhu who had come, and he was really into the sadhu thing. He wore the wooden sandals, which is the thing that goes to here, and his hair was all matted. He was very picturesque, I got to remember. And he was very aware of that, he was very devotional during kirtan. It was a little bit showy, I'm sure he was sincere, but it was a little bit showy. So I remember one of the times Ma was walking with us, and we were all standing there, and she was going like this, and people were starting to dance, and he was right next to Ma, and he started going, a little short. And Ma, I watched Ma, she was like this, and she went, boom, and hit him. And she was very, it's like, he had his eyes closed, it's funny, he's thinking, did Ma hit me? And she was looking away very innocently. She could be very tricky. She would, because she was just perfectly in tune with everyone, so she would look at you and look at a person, and just, they'd be looking somewhere else, and she would stop and she would just look at them and study them and really look, and then just a split second before they look back, she'd look away. And then later on with the Satsang, we'd say, Ma was looking at you for the longest time. Really? I didn't see it, darn it, Because we watched it time and again. The minute looked back, she'd already be looking away.
How many years did you say? 12 at least?
I came to India, I was studying with Swami Satchidananda, also a disciple of Sivananda. And I had met this Swami who was a disciple of mine. I had this deep experience of Mao. I don't think we're going to here. And so I stayed in his ashram for a while, and I called Swami Satchidananda, and I said, I feel drawn to Ma. And he was very humble. He said, I was a step on the ladder. Take your foot off this rung and go to the next rung. He was very humble. So I went to Ma. It's hard to find her. And it was in 1973, and I stayed with her in 73, 74, traveled with her during those 2 years. In those days, nowadays you can get these 10-year visas. You just put the money down. In those days you couldn't get more than like 3 or 6 months. So I had to go to offices and bribe officials and things to get my visa extended. And finally I couldn't stay any longer. So I went, Ma was in Hollywood at the time, and I had a private with her. I said, I have to go back to America. And I said, do you have any other instructions for me? And she just looked at me and she said, I've given you instructions, do them. And then she looked at me real intently and she said, do japa all the time. That was the last thing she said to me. I'm still working on that one. Yeah. So then I went back to this ashram I was living in, dedicated to Mom. And the the Swami there would take 2 or 3 people, according to the finances we had every year. But I'd spent so much time, I was kind of like at the bottom of the list. So then she left her body a few years after that. I never got to go back, which I regret. At the same time, I had my time and the connection was made. And the important thing is her presence grows within you if you have that connection. So I feel her more dynamically now than when I saw her as an external being, because I just turn and look in the right direction. She's right there always. So,
Wonderful. Thank you.
yeah. Well, thank you all for coming and have sharing this time and chanting this mantra together. And I hope it's a good tool that you can use when you the way you want to
I'm
do it.
sure we'll meet again.
Yes. Jai Ma. Jai Ma, everybody on Zoom. Hi, Nirmala. Hi, Miss Gabriel. I can't see who else. Who's on the left?
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma. You want to close this down, Swami? I don't know how to do it.
There's an asana class at
Swami?
4 o'clock.